Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. This is Shyam Kaggod here, bringing you the Hindu news analysis dated 26th March 2025. And in today's analysis, I've taken a total of 10 articles, out of that 8 from the daily edition of Hindu newspaper and the 2 articles from Indian Express, so that the discussion is comprehensive and all the areas that you need to cover to ace the examination will be covered. If you like this initiative, do hit the like button. If you are yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Now, before I start the discussion, those who are aiming to ace the Civil Services Examination 2026, you can avail our courses at a discount of 60%. And once you use the code IAS English, you'll also get an extension of 12 months free of cost. Those who are interested, do click on the link provided in the description below. Now, let me start the discussion. The first article is associated with the vaccines, transparency as well as accountability. Now, what are the important points here? What is the connection to UPSC? Let's understand all of this. Point number 1. Whenever you talk about drugs or vaccines in India, the authority which is responsible for regulation, that is giving approval, is at the central government. The authority is CDSCO. CDSCO, that is a Central Drugs Standards Control Organization. CDSCO functions under the central government, that is the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Now imagine a new drug has to be introduced in India. A vaccine has to be introduced in India. The approval will be obtained from this particular authority. Whereas, remember this next point now, the regulation over the production of it, the sales of it, etc. will come under the state regulatory authorities. At the state level, there are again drug controllers. So these state level drug controllers basically look at the distribution sales of these particular drugs or vaccines. Now, what are the important points which are discussed in the article? The regulation over the production, or let's say even the approval of this, are governed under the provisions of these 3 important provisions or these 3 important laws and guidelines. One is the Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940. Second one is Drugs and Cosmetic Rules of 1945. And the third one is the New Drugs and Clinical Trial Rules of 2019. Done? Now, let's start with the discussion of the points discussed in the article. Point number 1, there are multiple petitions which have been filed in the judiciary, specifically pending at Supreme Court of India, which are alleging certain issues regarding vaccines in India. The vaccines, take for example the COVID-19 vaccine or rabies vaccine, etc. Multiple petitions are pending at the level of Supreme Court of India. What are the concerns which have been raised in these particular petitions which have been filed? First one, the regulatory authority CDSCO, when they provide approvals for these particular vaccines, they will collect a lot of data from the companies which have applied for approval. Essentially, the process is like this. Imagine there is a production company, let's say vaccine producing company ABC. It will apply for getting an approval from CDSCO. And when they apply for an approval, they will submit lot of documents. For example, the trials which have been conducted by this particular company, the data will be submitted. Now, CDSCO will consult various doctors, will have deliberations, and finally provide approvals to this particular company to produce and sell these medicines or drugs or vaccines in the domestic market. Now, the concerns are, point number 1, when the CDSCO, when they will receive the data from the company ABC, the trial information or trial related data will be provided. This trial related data is not made public. The trial related data is not made public. The reason which has been cited is that when the trials are conducted, lot of patients are covered in the trials. Some of them are given the actual vaccination, some of them are given the blank vaccinations, the standards, etc. So the privacy of the patients or the privacy of the test patients should not be revealed. And that is the precise reason CDSCO doesn't make this particular information public. The issue here which has been raised in the petition is that let the CDSCO mask the names of the patients. In order to protect the privacy, let it mask the names of the patient. And whatever is the trial related data, let it be put in the public domain. Reason is, whenever you want to purchase, let's say a medicine in the market, or let's say you want to take vaccination in the market, a lot of times we do not know, we do not understand the technicalities behind this kind of a drug or a vaccination. For example, when you go to a hospital or let's say take vaccination, a lot of times we do not even inquire if there are any side effects of taking these medications. At least let the experts in the public domain, other experts who know what is the side effect, who can understand what kind of a trials have been conducted, etc., etc., they'll be able to go through all of these documents and basically provide certain information to the government, to the regulator, to the public such as you and me. Okay, this is the first concern. Second concern is, I said the regulator will have certain doctors. They will consult certain doctors. A lot of viewpoints or the inputs are taken by the regulator before giving the approval. Now, whether these particular doctors have any tie-up with this private sector company or let's say any company here, who are these particular doctors? This kind of information regarding the doctors is not provided by the regulatory authority. And this is important, mind you, this is very important. Why? What if this particular doctor whose viewpoint has been considered by the regulator is on the payroll either directly or indirectly in this company ABC? Don't you think in such cases the doctor will always give right information or will recommend for introduction of such vaccination or drugs in the market? And he or she may not be on the direct payroll of the company. They can be working in any other project which is indirectly controlled or financed by this particular private sector company. So another concern which has been raised is the doctors from whom the viewpoint is taken, from whom the recommendations are considered by the regulator, their information, right, is not revealed by the regulator. And as a result of these two, here itself we can understand there are a lot of issues regarding the transparency. There are a lot of issues regarding the transparency in, right, let's say approving these kind of medicines or drugs which are consumed by you and me. The third issue which has been raised is, let's say a vaccine is provided. What about the information regarding the side effects of the vaccination? What about the information regarding the side effects of the vaccination? Don't you think before giving the vaccination, before even vaccinating me, all of this information should be available? I should be provided with all of this information so that based on this, I will take a call whether should I get this vaccination or not. Because mind you, yes, there are certain people who do not believe in vaccination. There is in fact a movement called as an anti-vax movement. But most of the discussion in the groups of anti-vaccination followers is based on conspiracy. But in reality, what should be done is, whenever vaccines are approved and these are provided to the people, what about information related to vaccination? For example, you want to take my consent. Before taking my consent, please provide me the complete information regarding this vaccination. Otherwise, there have been instances, mind you, there have been instances where vaccines have been provided. We have received vaccines, but we have not been protected, even though we have been taking vaccines from a particular disease. There have been instances where there have been infections after vaccination and the patients have passed away, have died because of the reaction of this vaccination. So I hope you understand what are the side effects. And the writers basically say the government has a website. The government will provide all of this information in a website. But you tell me, honestly, by the way, hand on your heart, when you go to a hospital to purchase or to get drugs, and when I say drugs, I'm talking about medicines. I'm not talking about the other drugs, right? The Urta Punjab wala drugs. Right? So argument is, when you purchase medicines, do you go to a website? Do you go to government websites to check all the side effects? Some of you might simply say, yes, sir, I do. But can you attribute the same kind of a precaution taken by everybody in India? No, that is not done. You know that, I know that. So argument is, side effects or this kind of a information regarding the vaccination should be provided to the patient when they visit the doctor. It should be made mandatory rather than simply saying it is there in certain website. That is the third concern which has been raised. And the fourth concern is, let's say a vaccine is provided, the patient dies because of, let's say, a reaction, because the body doesn't accept this vaccine, etc. Then what about compensation? What about the compensation issue here? Who should take care of the compensation? Please understand, there is a concept of indemnity. There is this idea of indemnity, and this was there in the discussion during COVID period. The issue was, imagine a foreign company will come to India and supply COVID vaccines to us. We take COVID vaccine, and because of this vaccine, let's say there is a reaction, there is a death of the patient, there is a certain impact on the health of the patient. In such cases, who shall be held liable? Who shall be held liable in such cases? The government of India, please understand, doesn't provide any kind of a guarantee in case of the drug suppliers. That is called as the indemnity clause. The government of India doesn't provide any kind of, let's say, guarantee. That is, if the vaccine is provided, the government doesn't take any kind of responsibility. That is generally the viewpoint of government of India. That is the umbrella policy. So that is the precise reason during the COVID time, you must have seen the COVID vaccination that has been provided in India, these were supplied by domestic companies. The foreign companies simply said, if there is no indemnity provided by government of India, if some cases are filed against me, then I'll have to bear the huge amount of a compensation, huge amount of expenditure has to be borne by me. That's the reason the foreign companies stayed away. So in this particular case, the argument of the writers is, if a company manufactures a drug, supplies this drug or vaccination, don't you think the company should be forced to pay compensation in India? Argument is, if the company supplies these vaccines, company is making profits, company is earning money, let the company pay this compensation. And why this has been raised by the writers here? There is a case which is pending in the Supreme Court of India. There is a case where the government of India has basically argued against providing a compensation in certain deaths where COVID vaccines have been provided. Right? So argument is, the private sector should bear the burden of the compensation, not the government. And as such, government of India has not provided for any guarantees in these kind of vaccines. So these are the four very important issues which have been raised by the writers in this article, where they argue that there should be more public trust generated, or let's say increased in the minds of the common man or public. Reason being, we take a lot of these vaccines, we consume a lot of these drugs, and we generally have a blind faith on the government authorities that all the checks and balances are in place, but there are issues here. For example, doctor information is not transparent. What are the trials conducted? That is not transparent, etc. So there is a need to improve upon the transparency as well as the accountability regarding the vaccination in Indian market. Done? So these are the important points given in the article. I have given an MCQ here, MCQ number 82. Consider the following statements regarding CDSCO. It is responsible for approval of new drugs, regulation over its production and sales. Second statement, CDSCO is a statutory body functioning under Department of Pharmaceuticals. Right, so these are the two statements which of the two statements are true, do let me know. Otherwise, wait for the end of the discussion. I'll give you the key answers. Okay. Next article, another lead article, the great abandonment of Afghanistan. Basically, the article discusses the connection between India and Afghanistan. What should government of India do in the coming days to address the issues, or let's say basically to take care of the relation with Afghanistan? The points are as such. Point number 1. India and Afghanistan have a very long-standing relation. Very long-standing relation. Now come to the modern times. Don't worry about the ancient period or let's say medieval period. Come to the modern times. The rule over the Afghanistan was basically taken over by the Taliban back in the year 1996. From 1996 to 2001, Taliban ruled Afghanistan. Right? And after 2001, because of the US security forces as well as the other allies, there was democracy established in Taliban. From 2002 until 2021, there was a democracy in democracy in Afghanistan, not Taliban, in Afghanistan. And during this period of time, the government of India provided huge amount of assistance to the extent of around $3 billion for the development and growth of Afghanistan. The assistance was in the form of money, even in the form of intelligence assistance was also provided. Okay, some of you are saying it is buffering. Can you please do check and do let me know? Is there buffering? Do let me know. Is it okay? Okay, done. Don't worry. I did not discuss anything. You did not miss anything. Let's continue. So there was a lot of assistance that was provided by government of India during this particular period where there was a democracy that was installed, or there was established democracy in Afghanistan. But after 2020, again Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. And now Taliban says it is the established government, that is recognized government, and that they will basically have control over all the things that are happening in Afghanistan. Now with this, India has basically fallen into a tight spot. India has basically fallen into a problem now. What is the problem? If I basically recognize the government now, if I basically recognize that Taliban government is the correct government, established government in Afghanistan, it will basically mean that I'm in favor of all the things that they are doing. For example, Taliban government doesn't allow women to, let's say work. It has many restrictions on participation of women in economic activities, etc. So this is a far cry, much more dangerous compared to what was the situation during the democratic government which was set up in, let's say, Afghanistan after 2001. There was an instance where there was a presidential candidate who was a woman candidate. So gone are the days when we had these kind of situation where participation of women was promoted. It was not the best, let's say the setup for women even during democracy, but at least it was much better compared to what is the situation of women in let's say Afghanistan today. And not just that issue, not just the let's say empowerment of women or participation of women. Even today in Taliban, they basically have a very strong hold, a strong control over dissenters. They basically do not hesitate to take action against any kind of a dissent in Afghanistan, and that is not in favor of democratic principles. So government of India now has this kind of a catch-22 situation. If I recognize Taliban government, then it basically means I'm going to support all of these activities. But if I don't recognize, if I do not have the relations with the Taliban government, there is another problem. What is the other problem? Take other countries. For example, take the government of China, take Pakistani government. These two governments are very much open to the Taliban government. They are more accommodating to the, let's say the activities of Taliban government. They have more recognition to the Taliban government. Although nobody has recognized the Taliban government as the established government, but they are more open to, let's say the overtures of the Taliban government. So this is the issue. If I do not support, if I do not engage with the Taliban government, I will cede my position. I'll cede, right? Let's say the strategy or certain importance that I've established over a period of time in Afghanistan. And if I support Taliban government, it will basically mean that, right, I will be supporting all these kind of, right, let's say activities of Taliban government. So what should be done by government of India? And that is basically the discussion why government of India is having this kind of a strategy is being discussed in the article here. Point number one, please understand, after the Taliban take over of the government in Afghanistan, the government of India has closed down its embassy in Kabul. Right, it has closed down its embassy in Kabul. Right now, only a technical mission is operating in Afghanistan. What is the essential idea of a technical mission? The embassy will represent the whole setup of a diplomacy, whereas the technical mission will basically represent a small part of, let's say, representatives who are basically having negotiations, talks with a particular government, not a full-fledged embassy or a diplomatic mission. So right now there is only a technical mission. Right now in Kabul there is only a technical mission. Point number one. Point number two, the government of India argues that in order to help people of Afghanistan, I don't have any option but to continue to have talks, continue to hold negotiations with Talibani government. Otherwise, the Talibani government might simply, right, basically restrict my access, right, restrict my funding, etc., etc. Argument here is, the writer simply says, Suhasini Haidar, very well-known expert in global relations like this, he says, it is not completely true. Even when there was the Talibani government back in 1996 to 2001, the government of India had provided aid to Afghanistan. In certain cases directly and in certain cases indirectly. For example, through Red Cross, through World Health Organization, etc. We ensured lot of aid, lot of funding will be provided for humanitarian assistance during Talibani government, or I'll simply call this as Taliban 1.0. Right, so the government of India's argument that you have to, right, have talks, only then they will allow us to provide assistance, that is not completely true. And point number two here itself, understand this, the Talibani government is experiencing a fast outflow or depletion of forex reserves. And Taliban right now requires any kind of assistance that they might get from any country across the world. Especially with the Trump administration, which has cancelled all the US aid projects, which has shut down US aid, etc. The Taliban administration would require any kind of assistance that they can get. So in such situation, why do you have to support, or why do you have to even recognize the Talibani government? They will essentially ask for your aid. Any aid that you provide, they'll be very happy with that because they are falling short of these kind of assistances. That's the second point. Third point, government of India simply says, Taliban government is here. Right, earlier the USA, right, was present in Afghanistan, or the troops of USA were present in Afghanistan. NATO troops were present in Afghanistan. Now they have basically moved out of Afghanistan. There is no other option. Taliban government is here to stay. So there is no option for me but to negotiate, but to have talks, consult, or let's say have relations with the Talibani government. The writer simply says, yes, with withdrawal of USA troops, that was done by Trump administration earlier, and with withdrawal of NATO, essentially they have, right, basically washed their hands. They are completely absent in this particular region. But having said so, it might not be for a very long duration that the Talibani government might continue to operate at the level they are operating today. Reason being, within Taliban itself, there are different fractions. And within these particular, or amongst these particular fractions are nothing but groups. So within these particular factions, there is a disagreement over the kind of policies that the government is implementing in Afghanistan. For example, the kind of policies that they have implemented regarding hindering the participation of women has actually led to, right, let's say a certain differences in two different factions, and as a result of this, the leaders of the faction which was opposed to such policies, they have fled Afghanistan now. In addition to this, there are economic uncertainties. They do not have sufficient forex reserves. Except to certain countries, they are not receiving aid from other countries, etc. So the kind of administration the Taliban is having now, the kind of, let's say, approach they are having now, it may not continue for a very longer duration. That is point number 3. Point number 4, right? What should government of India do in such situations? What should government of India do in such situations? Please understand, government of India, no doubt, to protect its interest, to protect its own interest, should have certain relations with the Talibani government. Relation means, let's say, hold talks, convey what is expected from Talibani government. It also have certain policies or have certain words to basically say that it is that is the government of India is not in favor of, let's say, anti-human activities or, right, let's say, human right, the violations that are being conducted by Talibani government, etc. Have this kind of approach, but at the same point of time also have a policy where any kind of dissenters, any kind of oppositions, right, which are there against the Talibani government, there should be certain solace provided, certain comfort provided by government of India. For example, when there was the Taliban takeover, lot of these people who are escaping from Afghanistan, they applied for visas in India. Government of India has not accepted these visas. There have been multiple instances where dissenters of the Talibani government want to hold conferences in India. Government of India has not accepted this. So argument is, yes, there are security issues, there are defense issues, there are issues of humanitarian assistance that you need to continue to provide in Afghanistan. Keeping in mind all of these, continue to have negotiations with Taliban, but at the same point of time, ensure that the dissenters, that is those proponents in favor of human right protection, women empowerment, etc., you will also provide certain space to these kind of activities as well. Right? So these are the things which are being discussed in the article provided here. Okay, now let me go to the next article. Supreme Court of India is asking if there should be a timeline for deciding on defection. Now, what are the important points here? The important points are very simple. I'm pretty sure a lot of you would have heard about anti-defection in earlier discussions as well. The issue is very simple. Under the 10th schedule, there is a discussion regarding defection or defection law. And under this 10th schedule, the speaker is supposed to take a decision regarding, right, the defection. That is whether, let's say, elected representative, when they shift from one political party to another political party, whether they should be dismissed or whether they, let's say, they should be declared under anti-defection law. But issue here is the schedule, that is the 10th schedule, doesn't have any time frame. It doesn't have any time frame. What is the meaning of this? Let's say a MP will jump from one political party to another political party, or MLA will switch from one political party to another political party. Then the demand shall be submitted to the speaker to, right, basically cancel the membership of this particular MP or MLA. The speaker can simply sit over this particular demand as long as they want to. And there have been instances in the past, there have been cases in the past where, right, the speakers have taken the decision in favor of their own political party in certain cases, and right, they have taken a very immediate decision in certain cases when it is right against another political party. Because mind you, the speaker, let's say in Lok Sabha, the speaker is right from the governing party, from the, right, let's say the government ruled party. So in such cases, even the Supreme Court of India earlier has raised concerns regarding this particular power of the speaker. That is, should there be a time frame? Because there have been instances where speakers have, right, accepted the application, right, accepted the motion, and they have simply said, right, till the completion of that particular legislature time period. And that is the precise reason. Please make a note of these judgments of Supreme Court of India, the earlier judgments. In 1992, Supreme Court of India ruled that the speaker, whenever they rule that, because the Supreme Court of India says the speaker in such cases functions like a tribunal. So in such cases, whenever any order, any decision of the speaker regarding anti-defection, it is open to judicial review. It is open to judicial review. That was the judgment back in 1992. Back in 2020, again there was one more judgment where Supreme Court of India again looked at these kind of situations where speakers are simply sitting on these anti-defection rulings. The Supreme Court of India simply said the Constitution of India doesn't mandate a time frame. It doesn't have any kind of a time frame, but that doesn't give the speaker the freedom to simply sit on these kind of anti-defection rulings as such. So what should be done? The Supreme Court recommended that the speaker should decide on these as soon as possible. As soon as possible, the Supreme Court said they might take it, right? They might do the decision or take a decision within a reasonable time frame of 3 months. But again, please understand, it is just a ruling. It is not mandatory. It is not binding on the speakers. And Supreme Court of India yesterday said, again, there are a lot of instances where, right, you can see the speaker basically not abiding by the constitutional mandate. Hearing a particular case, right, which is associated to one of the states in southern part of India, the Supreme Court of India justices said, in recent times we are seeing, right, let's say in certain states where even the cases of Ayaram or Gayaram, right, these particular cases are becoming very, right, very intense now. Lot of jumping of, right, let's say the members of one political party to another political party, like this, lot of things are happening. So in hearing that particular case, now Supreme Court of India says, can we take up this particular issue and have a definite time frame, prescribe a definite time period within which speaker shall basically take a decision. Now in the coming days you will come across these kind of hearings, because please understand, in the earlier judgment regarding the time frame, the constitutional bench was much larger, and the Supreme Court bench that is hearing the case now is just a 2-justice bench. So obviously they cannot take a ruling or they cannot take a decision, they cannot issue an order regarding this, because the higher constitutional bench would be required. But one more very important point here, earlier in the Maharashtra crisis, where again issue related to defection itself, the speaker was sitting on this particular anti-defection ruling for a very longer period. And please understand, whenever speaker will delay the ruling, it will have a huge impact on the kind of a political party which will form the government. It can be used to form a government. It can be used to, right, basically have a collapse of a certain political party, etc., etc. Every way it can be used. That is the defection of members from one political party to another political party. So back when the Maharashtra crisis, the case regarding Maharashtra was being heard, Chief Justice Mr. Chandrachud, basically the court ruled that the Speaker of Maharashtra Legislative Council should take decision or must take a decision regarding the anti-defection by end of December 2023. But again, it was mentioned by end of December. When, how many days are required, by, right, what should be the exact date, that was again left to the Speaker of Maharashtra government itself or Maharashtra Legislative Assembly. Done. So these are certain things which are there in the current affairs regarding the powers of the Speaker, the anti-defection law, the 10th schedule, etc., etc. Please be very careful, right? This can be again asked in the preliminary examination. Now, 2 articles from Indian Express, right? As promised to you, 2 articles from Indian Express. This article, as far as I am concerned, is very, very important. Listen to me carefully. Gold monetization scheme to be ended. The government of India yesterday announced in the floor of the parliament that the gold monetization scheme has been discontinued. Now, what is this idea of a gold monetization scheme? Listen to me carefully. Although this has been discussed in Indian Express, Business Standard, Economic Times, Financial Express, this is not discussed in the Hindu newspaper. That's the reason I've picked up from Indian Express. Now listen to me. Back in the year 2015, Government of India, in order to ensure that the gold that is held in the domestic market, the gold that is held with households or other institutions, etc., rather than basically importing more and more gold for the purpose of sales, let's monetize. Monetize means provide value to the gold which is already lying idle with households in India. Huge amount of a gold is kept with all the households, including mine, including yours. So argument was, we keep on importing gold. And when you keep on importing gold, this will contribute to outflow of dollars. This will increase the current account deficit. It will lead to, right, let's say, increased outflow of currencies from India. So rather than always being import dependent, why not basically monetize the gold that is simply sitting in the households? And to address this particular issue, the Government of India introduced an initiative by the name of Gold Monetization Scheme. GM, yes, Gold Monetization Scheme. What is this Gold Monetization Scheme? Let's say there is a house which has a certain amount of gold. Now the house can simply take the gold, give it to a bank. Although multiple options were there, I'm taking one option, bank. Right? You can simply give it to bank, and right now this particular bank will melt the gold and sell it to the gold makers or jewelry makers in India. Is everybody okay with the flow chart here? A very simple, right, supply chain system I've written. I have gold, right? I will sell it to a bank, and the bank, or I'll deposit that with the bank, and the bank will simply sell it to, right, let's say, or they will first melt it and then sell it to, let's say, jewelry maker. Now, if the jewelry makers can get the gold from the domestic market like this, automatically the import dependence will go down. Done? Automatically the import dependence will go down. This was the objective of Government of India in, right, introducing the concept of Gold Monetization Scheme. Now, I know many of you will have multiple doubts here. Sir, right, what if I'm selling the bank or I'm depositing with the bank, right, which is a fake gold? My dear, all the testing was done, the purity testing, etc., everything was conducted. You don't try to basically create a cheating system here. Okay, so let's continue. So this was the initiative. Now the Government of India simply says the amount of gold that has been collected, right, through this kind of a system is very limited, very small amount. The import dependence has kept on increasing. And right, mind you here, when the house deposited this particular gold, let's say with the bank, there were three options. There were three options. These are called as short-term gold deposits, medium-term gold deposits, and long-term gold deposit. Is everybody okay? Don't keep on asking me what is ST, MT, and LT. ST stands for short-term, where the deposit duration was 1 to 3 years. Medium term was 5 to 7 years, and long term was, right, let's say 12 to 15 years. So this was the deposit duration for which the house would keep the gold with the bank. And for having kept the gold, the amount of, right, let's say the value of the gold that was kept, the bank used to provide certain interest rate to the house here. The bank would provide certain interest rate. Now, what was the interest rate? Please understand. In case of short term, the interest rate was decided by the bank. Right? I repeat, in case of short term, the interest rate was decided by the bank. In case of medium term and long term, it was decided by Government of India. I'm saying Government of India, suddenly UPSC will say it was announced by RBI. Both are correct. Why? RBI and Government of India, that is specifically Minister of Finance. Both were, right, basically part of this kind of a monetization scheme. Everybody is okay with this argument so far? And let's say you keep the deposit. You decide to keep the deposit under medium term, which is for a duration of 5 to 7 years. Can you withdraw this particular deposit prematurely? That is, let's say after 4 years, can you withdraw this? The argument was, or let's say the feature was, yes. Prematurely, these particular deposits were allowed to be closed, provided, understand this, again I'm not giving you exact details here, provided you meet a certain condition, that is a fixed time period, certain limitation was there, you will have to keep for, let's say 1 year, you'll have to keep for 3 years, like this, the conditions have to be met, lock-in period condition has to be met, then prematurely you can withdraw the gold. Now when you withdraw the money, when you withdraw the deposit, either prematurely or upon the completion, right, either prematurely or upon the completion, please understand, there was an option. Either you can withdraw it in the form of gold only, or you can basically ask the bank to pay market price of the gold. You can basically ask the bank to pay market price of the gold. These are the features which are associated with gold monetization scheme. Everybody is okay? Everybody is on the same page with me regarding the features of the gold monetization scheme? Do let me know in the chat section. And those who are wondering, sir, any tax benefit? Any tax benefit was provided for these kind of scheme? Yes. Tax benefit in the form of capital gains tax, the tax benefit in the form of, let's say, wealth tax, right? All the tax exemptions were provided which are applicable on the gold associated with the gold monetization scheme. Done? Everybody is okay? Now, let me go forward. What has happened to the market prices of the gold now? Please do let me know. What has happened to the market prices of the gold? For example, yesterday I was addressing one of the question of a learner who said why the gold prices or why sovereign gold bonds have been discontinued by the government. I said the sovereign gold bond, when it was introduced, the market price for 10 gram was 26,000 rupees. Today, the market price of the gold is more than 90,000 rupees. More than 90,000 rupees. So I hope you understand, if Government of India will continue to provide for gold monetization scheme, let's say medium term and long term, don't you think upon maturity, let's say, right, I will keep today, under long term I'll keep, right, let's say a certain amount of gold, and upon maturity, don't you think the price could be much higher compared to what is the gold price today? Even if I opt for a medium term deposit, the gold that I will deposit with the bank today, upon maturity, it will be much higher, which is a burden, right? Which is an unnecessary burden on the financial institutions here. That is the precise reason. Now, Government of India simply says, no, we are looking at the market situation. The gold prices are fluctuating a lot, and that is the precise reason we will basically discontinue the two types of deposits under the gold monetization scheme, that is medium term and long term. I'll repeat, the medium term and long term, right, let's say deposits under the gold monetization scheme have been discontinued. Sir, what about the short term? Short term deposit under the gold monetization scheme will continue, because the government is saying, if the banks want to collect it, let them collect it. They are bearing the burden of the interest, etc. They are deciding the interest, etc. Let them take a decision. We are not going to enforce anything, but medium term and long term deposit scheme under gold monetization scheme has been discontinued effective yesterday itself. Effective yesterday, since the announcement has been done, it has been discontinued. What about those deposits which are already there? Right? Imagine I deposited certain amount of gold in 2024 and I've chosen medium term deposit. That will continue. The earlier deposits which have been collected till maturity, it will continue. But new deposits effective yesterday will not be collected. So everybody is okay with the gold monetization scheme now? Those who have doubt, have patience. You can ask to me later at the end of the session. Okay. Now I've given an MCQ associated with this. Consider the following statements regarding gold monetization scheme. There was no interest paid on the gold deposited under this. The gold deposited enjoyed tax exemptions from capital gains tax. The deposits could not be closed prematurely. Three statements are there. How many of them are true? Do let me know. Otherwise, I'll give you the key answer at the end of the session. Next, one more article from Indian Express. Underutilization of the funds has been flagged by a standing committee. Right now, I hope you know this, there is a budget session which is happening. And as a part of the budget exercise, you will know this, there are multiple standing committees, department-related standing committees, which will basically seek data, collect information from different ministries and departments, and submit a report to Lok Sabha. One such report, which is basically criticizing a Ministry of Environment and Forest, has been submitted. And look at the facts here. Just look at the facts. There is one scheme that is being implemented by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MOEFCC, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The name of the initiative is Control of Pollution Scheme. Control of Pollution Scheme. What the standing committee is flagging is very simple. For this particular year, the allocation, the money that has been allocated for this particular initiative is over 800 crore rupees. Do not memorize the complete number or exact number, not required. The amount has been revised to more than 800 crore rupees. And this allocation to the ministry, basically this allocation for one scheme accounts for around 27% of the total allocation for the ministry. Are the 2 points clear? I'll repeat it. The scheme Control of Pollution Scheme, which has been implemented from 2018 and 19 in India, under which we will provide assistance to various state governments to control over the pollution. For example, air pollution initiatives, funding will be provided from the central government. This was launched in 2018. The allocation has been revised to more than 800 crore. And this allocation to the Ministry of Environment, Environment, Forest and Climate Change is around 27% of the total allocation for the ministry. But what they have found is just 1%, below 1% in fact, below 1% of these total funds have been utilized so far by the ministry. Is it okay? Below 1%, more than 800 crore allocation. But how much has been utilized? Around 7 crore rupees. Around 7 crore rupees. So this information has been provided in the month of January by the ministry to the standing committee. The information has been provided in January. How many months are left out? February and March. We are going to complete the financial year. So the whole process of budgeting, where the government will allocate the funds, the ministry is supposed to utilize the funds to implement the projects, etc., etc. The funds have been allocated. Upward revision has been done. But hardly around 7 crore rupees has been utilized by the ministry. And the standing committee says this is gross mismanagement of the funds. Gross underutilization of the funds. And that too, it is being done in a time period where periodically multiple reports are being published which are raising concern over air pollution in India. I hope you understand. Multiple reports, for example, AQI, air quality. In case of Delhi, you must have seen it has increased to alarming levels. So on one side, we keep on saying air quality index is showing a deterioration in the quality of air. It is not breathable, etc. We need to implement projects, etc., etc. But on the other side, funds which have been allocated are simply sitting idle, are not being utilized to implement projects to control air pollution. So the standing committee simply says this is gross mismanagement, gross underutilization of the funding which has been allocated. And upon questioning the ministry, what was the reason? Why the funds have been not utilized even though you have reached January 2025? The ministry has replied that they are not sure whether this initiative will be expanded to cover 25-26. There is no clarity so far, no announcement has been done whether this initiative will be expanded. And that is the precise reason why they have not been able to utilize the funds. So essentially the committee says introspect. It's a time for introspection. You need to essentially utilize the funds. Everybody is okay, right? This one is article from Indian Express. Done. Any other concern, any other issues, any other doubts associated with this? Inspirational hub. When will Chetan sir conduct the analysis? First and foremost, my dear, thank you for saying Chetan sir is different and I'm different. Both are different, by the way. And once Chetan sir will take the Hindu analysis, you will be informed, right? Well before the conducting of analysis, right? Let's say the pop-up will come. Don't worry, right? So again, please understand, some people will say when Shyam sir will take, when Chetan sir will take, when Sarma sir will take. My dear, focus on the discussion, right? Focus on the discussion. Why are you worried? Right? Focus on the discussion, because trust me, 100% I'll give it in writing to you. When you are sitting in, right, let's say UPSC UPSC interview, they will not give you marks based on from whom you have learnt the knowledge. Is it okay? I'll give it in writing to you. Right? If you say in the interview, Mr. Shyam was the educator from whom I've learned economics, they will not cut your marks. They'll not say -5. They don't know me. I don't know them. Right? So that is the reason. Don't worry about who is taking. Focus on accumulating knowledge. Okay, done. Let me go to the next article. Customs duty has been dropped, announced by the finance minister. This was there in the front page. I know a lot of you will basically look at the article and say, okay, customs, right, duty has been reduced. What is the importance of this article? Let's ignore it. Let's ignore this article. But I would simply say, focus on the article. Why? The first part, or let's say the Delhi edition, I've taken this screenshot from Delhi edition. In the first page, a lot of information has not been provided. I am only saying that a lot of information has not been provided. Only 2 points. One, the finance minister, while giving an explanation, stated that we are conducting a process of rationalization of customs duties. Over a period of time, the customs, or let's say the tariffs, have been higher, and in order to promote production in India, in order to promote manufacturing in India, in order to attract more and more investment, because if you want to manufacture, you will import certain raw material, you will import certain components, etc., etc. The tariffs have been cut, tariffs have been reduced. This is point number one. But what is the outcome of reduction in the tariffs? A lot of you will basically say it will promote production. Because I said so, you will simply say it will promote production. But my dear, in addition to promoting production, getting access to components, etc., there is another third objective that you need to remember. That is, there is the issue of inverted duty in India. Now tell me how many of you have heard of this? There is a issue of inverted duty in India. The issue of inverted duty will also be addressed with reduction or rationalization of the tariff. All of you, please focus on the discussion. Do not worry about what I've told earlier, that is regarding Chetan sir. Focus on the discussion. Leave it. Don't worry. Focus on the discussion. In the process of either supporting me, defending me, or opposing me, you will miss out on inverted duty. Then what is the point? So focus on the discussion. What is inverted duty? Essentially, the type of taxes that you pay on the input will be greater than taxes on the output. The tax on the input will be greater than tax on the output. That is called as inverted duty structure. It is referred to as inverted duty structure. And just imagine, when you import, I hope you understand, when you import, let's say, a raw material, tax on this is very higher. Don't you think, right? A lot of these producers will prefer to import a finished good rather than importing a component. Does it make sense to you? Because if I import a component, tax is higher. If I import a finished good, tax is lesser. Don't you think this will hamper production in India? This will basically make imports much more, let's say, price affordable compared to, or affordable in the sense tax payment. This will essentially promote more and more import of finished goods, right? So that is the reason, please understand, Government of India now says, I will reduce the taxes on or customs duties on the components. Everybody is okay with the three outcomes regarding the rationalization of duties? Do let me know in the chat section. Second point which has been mentioned, right, in page number 10, which most of you will miss out, is, right, let's say, nudge campaign. Nudge campaign. There is a term used by the finance minister called as nudge campaign. And by the way, concept of a nudge is not new in India. Back in the year 2018 and 2019, Economic Survey talked about nudge theory. I'll repeat this. Back in the year, right, let's say 2018-19 Economic Survey, the Economic Survey talked about nudge theory, right? What is this concept of a nudge theory? Right, understand this very carefully. Nudge theory is a part of behavioral economics. Behavioral economics. What it basically means is, when you're provided the information in certain other way, in a subtle way, when you're given information in a certain subtle way, a lot of times the decision making or behavior will change. I'll give you one example. And Government of India, trust me when I say this, is using nudge theory in multiple ways to change the behavior of the people. I'll give you one example. Government of India promoted sanitation, correct? Right? Under initiative, Government of India promoted sanitation. Right? That is basically, rather than going in the open field to relieve yourself, please use right, toilets. But have you seen the advertisements which were basically promoted by Government of India? They basically, rather than talking about the disease aspect of going right in an open field, right, etc., talked about society. They basically talked about, right, shaming people, right, a societal humiliation when you basically go outside to relieve yourself. So argument is, when rather than telling you, right, use the toilets in the home, you will not contract diseases, etc., etc., the same information was given in another certain way. Subtle way was used. That is called as nudge theory. Right? For example, I'll give you one more example. Those who are filing income taxes, now Government of India is using nudge there. Those who are filing income taxes, a lot of these income taxpayers have assets outside India. They have a lot of assets outside India. And because they don't declare those assets in filing of income taxes, the government will not be able to find out the exact value of income tax they are supposed to collect. Now, what the finance ministry is saying is, or the finance minister is saying is, we have used the nudge campaign here. Nudge campaign. How so? We have sent a message, email to specific number of taxpayers, around 1,900 taxpayers. What was the message? We simply sent a reminder. We simply sent them a reminder, that is, right, please check before filing the final income taxes. Please check if you have, right, let's say any foreign assets. If you have not declared any foreign assets, there might be, right, let's say investigation done later, etc., etc. This kind of a mailer, this kind of a message was sent by the tax department, essentially was sent. And this, right, actually has helped Government of India in collecting more and more amount of income taxes. Is everybody okay with this argument here? So this is called as nudge theory. Done? This is, right, called as a nudge theory. Everybody is okay? Please do let me know. So nudge theory, nudge campaign has been mentioned. Rationalization of customs duties has been mentioned. And income tax bill, right, the new proposal has been mentioned in this. Done? Everybody is okay? Mrudala Shri, please bring back Chetan sir. Don't worry, my dear. Chetan sir will come. Don't worry. Okay. Next article. Funds for disaster relief. Right. What are the important points in this article? Let's understand. Point number one, why this is discussed in the parliament yesterday. Right. That is specifically in the Rajya Sabha, why this was discussed. Right. Essentially, the point of contention was the Home Minister was giving a clarification regarding how the funds are released to the state governments under disaster relief fund. Now question will arise, what is this disaster relief fund? The disaster relief fund, please understand, there are two disaster relief funds. One is at the central government level, Central Disaster Relief Fund, and the second one is a State Disaster Relief Fund. And right, please remember this, the central government and the state government disaster relief fund is recommended by the Finance Commission. It has been set up based on the recommendations of the Finance Commission. Initially, the concept of a disaster relief fund was recommended by 11th EFC, 11th Finance Commission. At that point of time, it was named as Contingency Relief Fund and National Contingency Relief Fund. Is it okay? Right? Contingency Relief Fund and National Contingency Relief Fund. And when the 13th EFC was set up, the 13th Finance Commission was set up, the 13th Finance Commission recommended that we should rename it. Rename to what? Central Disaster Relief Fund and State Disaster Relief Fund. And come to the 15th Finance Commission, because I hope all of you know this, we are in the process of implementing 15th Finance Commission. So when we are implementing the 15th Finance Commission, the 15th Finance Commission made one more recommendation. That is, rather than allocating funds, whenever there is a disaster, okay, whenever there is a disaster, rather than allocating funds when disaster happens, why can't we allocate the funds to protect the people from the impact of the disaster? That is, can we provide funds so that certain infrastructure can be developed and the disaster can be, let's say, prevented? So that kind of a recommendation was provided by the 15th EFC, and that is also being implemented by the central government now. Everybody is okay with the evolution here? Please do let me know in the chat section. Everybody is okay with the evolution? 11th FC recommended, let's say contingency fund, state level, national level. 13th FC recommended renaming that, and 15th FC recommended disaster mitigation fund. Disaster mitigation fund. Done. So how the funds are released? Now, how the funds are released, Essentially, there are multiple parameters which are used by the central government to release the disaster relief fund. What are the parameters? One, essentially the population of the state. For example, population of the state is considered. Second, size of the state is considered. Third, what kind of expenditure has been incurred by the state government earlier to address the disaster management. That kind of a previous expenditure is also considered. So multiple parameters are considered, and after considering these parameters, the funds from the state disaster relief fund, or let's say generally the disaster relief fund, is released by the central government. So what has been the statement given by the Home Minister here? The Home Minister has clarified that when the funds under the disaster relief management are issued or released, there is a formula for it. We have not decided the formula. The Finance Commission has given the formula, and we are simply following the formula given. And according to the formula, we are releasing the funds. Now, if a particular state which is supposed to receive, let's say, 5,000 crore rupees, according to the formula, will demand 50,000 crores, we cannot accommodate that kind of a demand. Is it okay? We are releasing according to the formula, but state government is demanding 50,000. So I cannot release 50,000 crore. I can only release up to 5,000 crore rupee. This kind of a clarification has been given by the Finance Minister on the floor of Rajya Sabha regarding the disaster relief funds. And one more very important point here, Central Disaster Relief Fund funding is provided by the central government, and a state disaster relief fund 75% of this is given by the center, 25% is given by the states, in a normal state. If it is a special category state, 90% will be released by the center, 10% will be contributed by the state governments. So these are certain points regarding disaster relief funds. Please have a look at it. Next article, Russia, Ukraine agree to end military action in Black Sea. An update here. Right, so far you have heard of Russia, Ukraine negotiating, right, a peace deal individually with USA. Now there is the update. What is the update here? Update is very simple. Back in the year 2022, please understand, there was one agreement which was signed between both Russia and Ukraine. That was called as Black Sea Grain Deal. Remember this, Black Sea Grain Deal. Under this particular Black Sea Grain Deal, whatever commercial, right, let's say supply, commercial vessels which are carrying food grains, etc., which are being exported from Ukraine to other countries, there shall not be any attack on these particular commercial vessels. Is the point clear? I'll repeat this again. What was the essence of Black Sea Grain Deal? According to this agreement, when there are, right, essentially commercial vessels which are carrying, let's say, fertilizers or, right, let's say agriculture commodities, which will basically be exported from Ukraine, they shall not be attacked by the naval forces. That was essentially the Black Sea Grain Deal. This agreement was signed by both the parties. Russia in 2023 basically said the other party is not following all the regulations under this. It is not sticking by all the regulation. Hence, Russia withdrew from this particular deal. Now, with mediation of United States of America, with mediation of USA, where the negotiators are individually holding negotiations, right, with Russia on one side and with Ukraine on the other side, now there is a deal which has been proposed, which USA says both the sides are okay with this. Both the sides are agreeing to this, right, let's say deal. What is the deal? Now, no naval attacks, no military attacks will happen on, right, let's say vessels which are used for commercial supply of agriculture commodities which are passing through Black Sea. The naval attacks will not be conducted against such vessels, right? Although Ukraine has agreed to this, now there seems Russia has put certain conditions. What is the condition of Russia? Russia says, many of my agriculture commodities, there is a sanction by the G7 group of countries. I'm not able to export it. I'm not able to export these particular agriculture commodities to the international market. So I want this sanction to be lifted. And not just that, many of my banks are not allowed to participate under the SWIFT. Many of my banks are not allowed to participate under SWIFT. I want even this condition to be revoked. And once my agriculture commodity exports as well as my bank's participation under the SWIFT will be allowed, I will agree to this particular peace deal. I will agree to this kind of a deal. Everybody is okay? And those who are wondering, sir, what is this SWIFT? SWIFT essentially stands for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. That is, this system is used by the banks across the world to communicate with each other across the border. Is it okay? Across the border, whenever you need to communicate with each other, right, basically you will be using the SWIFT system. Right? Russian banks are not allowed to participate. And because they are not part of, right, let's say, because they are not part of the SWIFT system, they will not be able to receive or send, right, let's say, money to the other countries. Everybody is okay? So these are the points associated with the deal here. Everybody is okay. Can I go forward? Somebody says I'm not audible. Others, please do let me know. I'm audible? Okay. Let me go forward. Another article regarding MGNREGA. Right? Continuing the discussion on MGNREGA for last couple of weeks. An update here. What is the issue? The focus should be on important points. What are the important points? The government has clarified that the funds under MGNREGA, the funds which are allocated to the states under MGNREGA, these are not determined based on the population of the state. Point number one, listen to me carefully. Why this has come up? Because there was a discussion in the parliament. Okay. right? So funds under MGNREGA, which are allocated and not dependent on the population of the state. Then the question arises, how the funds will be allocated? Listen to me carefully. Whenever the budget is announced, whenever the union budget is announced at the national level, the allocation is done. For example, in the union budget, the government of India or finance ministry will allocate certain funds for MGNREGA. But this allocation immediately will not be released to states. This allocation will not be divided to the states and given to the states. No. What generally happens is the states will have to prepare a report. They will have to prepare a report as to what kind of projects are being covered under this, how much funding would be required, etc. And this has to be submitted to the government. And once this is submitted to Rural Development Ministry, the funds will be released from the budget to the respective state government. Now, before I go forward, let me ask you a very simple question. All the funds which are used for the development of assets or expenditure under MGNREGA, are all the funds given by the central government? This is a question from my side to you people. Let me see how many of you know the answer. Do let me know in the chat section. Whatever expenditure, total expenditure is incurred under MGNREGA, is it given by the central government to the states? Every time you people keep on asking me, now I am asking you, why should only students have all the fun? I will have some fun now. Answer is no. Answer is no. Please remember, answer is no. Why? Under MGNREGA, there are different kinds of expenditures. One is for labor. Understand this. One is for labor. Second one is materials. Labor, material, and the third one is administration. Is my point clear? There are three types: labor, material, and administrative expenses. Labor, 100% of the fund is given by the center. Is it okay? Labor, 100%. Material, right, part will be given by the center, part shall be shared by the states. Administrative expenses, all the expenses shall be borne by the state government. So please be very, very careful. These kind of statements can be used in the preliminary examination. So this is the clarification that has been provided by the government of India, right, on the floor of the parliament regarding MGNREGA funds. Okay, right, one more article, just an update. Now in the parliament, there is a demand that the Collegium system, right, again, I'm not discussing the entire details because you know already. So the Collegium system that is being followed as of now, we should discontinue the Collegium system. Instead of that, there should be more, right, transparency, accountability, and that can be done only by, right, introducing the system as recommended under NJAC. Right, so this is just an update. Beyond that, there is nothing else, only political arguments. Last article for today, BHIM 3.0 has been launched. BHIM 3.0 has been launched. Right, what is this BHIM 3.0? BHIM essentially is an app, a payment system, right, which has been developed by NPCI, which is available for all of us. Now, the third iteration or third version of BHIM, right, has been announced by NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India. Right, what is BHIM, by the way? Bharat Interface for Money. BHIM stands for Bharat Interface for Money. Under BHIM 3.0, what are the new features? What you will get if you use the app of BHIM, right? What are the new features? One, now if, right, let's say a certain group of friends are using BHIM app, BHIM UPI in a nutshell, until now, if a group of friends, let's say, went to a dinner, went to shopping, etc., only one person used to make payment and rest of the people later used to calculate and transfer money to the one who has paid. And a lot of times, one or two people out of a group of 5 or 6 people, they will not make payment, they will simply escape. Khaya piya, and after that gone. So argument is, now the third version of BHIM basically says, no, you can share the payments. you can essentially share the payments. If 5 people are there in a group, all the 5, they can share the payment, the amount will be debited, right? That is the first. Sharing of the payment, that is splitting of the bills is allowed now. Second one, if one person in a family has BHIM, others can also be added to the same account, right? Let's say a family of 5 people, right? 3 more people can be added to the same account, or remaining 4 can be added to the same account, right? That is, family sharing of this BHIM will be allowed now. And what is the use of this? The whole family now will be able to find out, right, what is the total expenditure, what is right, a total kind of a goods and services they are demanding in the market, where they are spending more, right? All of this analysis they can do it, right? So if your parent will ask you, be careful now. Next one, right, there will be a new dashboard created, and this particular dashboard will give you analysis of all the expenditure that you're doing, right? You can track all the expenses, you can analyze all the expenditures that you're using or that you're doing using UPI. That is one more very important change that has been introduced under BHIM 3.0. Done. So these are the various articles I wanted to cover from Indian Express as well as the Hindu newspaper dated 26th March 2025. Now, let me give you the key answers. MCQ 82. Consider the following statements regarding CDSCO. It is responsible for approval of new drugs, regulation over production and sales. Statement is incorrect because the CDSCO will approve the vaccine, will approve the drugs, but the regulation over the sales, right, or marketing, production, etc. is at the state level. Second, CDSCO is a statutory body functioning under the Department of Pharmaceuticals. Be careful. Why? A lot of you will basically say, okay, authority which is approving, right, let's say drugs or vaccination, it should automatically come under Department of Pharmaceuticals. No, this is also incorrect. Why? Department of Pharmaceuticals functions under Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. It functions under Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. So it is not under the Department of Pharmaceuticals. It is essentially functioning under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So both the statements are incorrect. Right option is option D. MCQ 83. Consider the following statements regarding gold monetization scheme. There was no interest paid on the gold deposited under this. Incorrect. I have told you interest is determined. The gold deposited enjoyed tax exemptions from the capital gains tax. Yes. The deposits could not be closed prematurely. Incorrect. Right option is option A. Only one is correct. Okay. Now, questions from your side. I'll address those which were there in the comment section yesterday. Then I'll take up your questions. Yesterday I was discussing about, right, let's say the government of India announcing a hike in the MP's salaries from 1 lakh rupees to 1.24 lakh rupees per month, by the way. And some of you basically took it and said MPs will be very happy with the sir's explanation when he is comparing purchasing power parity, etc., etc. My dear, let me give you the flip side of the argument, right? Please look at one more article which was mentioned in Mint newspaper. According to this article, now the MPs will start earning almost 8 times, almost 8 times the average income of an Indian. Is it okay? Now MPs will not be happy with me. Done. So have a look at this. The average, that is the per capita income. Per capita income of an Indian is 1.72 lakh rupees. 1.72 lakh rupees. And before you simply say, sir, this is much higher than 1.24 lakh rupees. So why should we be worried? We are earning more than MPs. My dear, this is per year and this is per month. The first one is per month and the second one is per year. So you do the calculation. This will be almost, right, 8 times compared to, right, what per capita income per Indian we are earning. Okay. Now, how can we download PPT? This question is asked in every video, including my video. Simple. The PPT after the session is over will be uploaded in my Telegram channel. You can download. Second, what is the difference between Sensex and Nifty and recently from a week they are growing, but till previous week their price were getting crashed. What is the reason of now increasing of Sensex, and what is the reason of dipping Sensex and Nifty earlier? Basically, the whole essay has been written on Nifty and, right, let's say Sensex as a question. And more interesting is somebody has given a thumbs up to that. Thumbs up to this question. Again, not a bad question. But my dear, what is the difference between Sensex and Nifty? There was a session that I've taken, a marathon session that I took earlier, where I covered everything in the financial markets. Starting from what is the stock, what is the bond, what is a Sensex, what is a Nifty, how Sensex is calculated, what is Nifty, how it is calculated, what is market capitalization, etc. I would request you, I cannot order you, I would request you to please have a look at that particular video. And I know you will simply say, but sir, it is 4 hours. How can I sit for 4 hours searching for where you will discuss BSE and Nifty? Timestamps are given. Please check. Please check. In that particular video, I've discussed it. But even then, Sensex is essentially measuring the change in the market capitalization of 30 companies. Nifty measures change in the market capitalization of 50 companies. Venkatesh Sai, where is the video? My dear, on the same Telegram channel. I'm sorry, on the same YouTube channel. All you need to do is go to live section, go scrolling downwards, you will get it, or else go to our YouTube channel, search for financial market, you will get it. Okay, do sovereign gold bonds get capital gains tax exemption? I cannot simply say yes or no because the answer is tricky. What is the tricky nature here? If you basically keep the sovereign gold bond till the end of 8 years, that is till the maturity period, then no capital gains tax. But on the other side, after 5 years, if you redeem, then there will be a capital gains tax. Please explain equalization levy. Thank you. And this is in a video where I've discussed equalization levy. Yesterday only I've discussed equalization levy, and the question is explain equalization levy. So I don't know whether you are not listening or am I not explaining. So argument is simple. Equalization levy is a type of a tax that was introduced by the government as a provision under the Finance Act. From 2016 we have implemented this. So when you purchase, let's say from a foreign company such as Google, Facebook, etc., when you purchase certain services and you pay more than 1 lakh rupees, 6% will be collected by the supplier from you of the value. 6% will be collected and given to government. That is called as equalization levy. Done. Okay. Explain difference between autonomous investment and autonomous expenditure. Simple. Autonomous means independent of any parameter. That is generally in case of investment and expenditure, or let's say the difference between autonomous expenditure and investment, we invest or we spend this particular money without being focused on the income levels. Whenever expenditures are without the focus on the income levels, these are called as autonomous. Done? Okay. So these are the questions. Anybody has any question regarding what I've discussed? Any questions? Those who are asking about Sensex, what is Sensex? My dear, please watch that particular video. Please watch that particular video. Okay. Please clarify TCS and TDS. Tax collection at source. When you are supposed to receive certain income, somebody is supposed to make an income payment to you. Part of it, they will collect it and give it to government. For example, part of your salary will be collected and given it to government. That is tax collection. Tax deduction, tax collection, when you purchase something, the taxes will be collected from you and given to government. Okay, one is deduction and the other one is collection. One is on income, another one is on purchases. Okay, done. That's it from my side. Take care. If you have any doubts, please do put it in the form of comment section. I'll reply to that. Otherwise, tomorrow again I'm taking the session. I'll address your questions. So take care. If you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it now. And if you have found this session helpful, please do appreciate it by clicking on the, or let's say liking this particular video by clicking on the button below. That's it from my side. Take care. See you tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m.